Okay, so maybe we'll start. I'm going to say hello. So my name is Angela Drake. I am the Director of Marketing here at BC Greenhouse Builders, and you may have got one or two emails from me. So the format today is really quite casual, to be honest. We're just here and we want to be able to help you with your questions and get anything sorted. So there's a couple ways we can do that. Most often what we do is we get people to ask questions in the chat, and then we can also link in resources and send things to you. Or if you feel like you'd like to do an on-camera question, that's possible too. So what we're going to do is we'll do just a quick overview of our greenhouses to answer sort of the more general questions. So I'd like to introduce you to a few team members that we have here today. We've got Cassie Yonkman, who works as one of our lead sales team members. Kyle Exner, one of our long-term legacy employees, general manager. And then Hannah Nicholas is our marketing coordinator, and Hannah will be sort of helping tee up questions and traffic control and doing all sort of the back end of today's workshop as well. So I'm going to pass it on to, I think, is it Kyle, Hannah?
Yeah.
Great.
Hi, thanks everyone for joining. So this is just really brief. Why choose BC Greenhouses? You're already talking to us, so you've already been researching a little bit. And the points kind of say it all. We're customizable. Almost every greenhouse we do is somehow tailor-made to whoever is buying it, to the customer. So that's really been our strength. We can help you with whatever growing zone you're in, or whatever you want to, we want to find out what you want to grow in winter or summer, and yeah, we can tailor make it for aesthetics and application. Strength has been a key factor for us. Our greenhouses are design engineered to can meet extreme loads. Just our base ones are already strong, but if people are in extreme areas, Gulf Coast hurricanes or heavy snows in the mountains, that's us. We're good for that. Our support, we're really a customer-driven company, and we like to insert ourselves into our customers' experience and get excited about the projects with you. And so we want to see it to the point where people are actually operating, growing plants in their greenhouses. So yeah, we want to take it to that level. Warranty, we've been around for 72 years. Yeah, 72 years. We're not going anywhere, and neither are greenhouses. So that's the warranty it's a lifetime on the frame, and the materials have the glass and polycarbonate. The polycarbonate's 10 years, and the seals in the glass, it's like a high quality window that you'd buy for your home. So it's also a 10-year kind of no questions asked warranty. So yeah, that's we stand behind what we build, and we have for a long time. This next part is me too, planning tools for your project or for your greenhouse. I'll just run through it. If you've been on our website, you may have seen our design your own application, and it's great because it kind of leads you through what we have and what we offer, and it gives you some idea of pricing too for scale of magnitude, and it helps you select or you can go through the different things and decide what styles you want and see the comparisons of price between one style or one size and another. So it's a good starting point. I love our catalog. It's been refreshed recently, and it's almost like a gardening magazine. So there's good articles in it that tell people what they should think about. Our buyer's guide is very similar to the catalog. Both those items are telling you, if you're new to this and this is a new project that you're thinking about, it'll also help you figure out what you don't know. So it may not give you all the answers. That's our greenhouse experts like Cassie, but it's going to help you know what questions to ask and know what questions we're going to ask you. And so besides those tools that you see, a session like this is usually helpful too, because we can answer some specific questions. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm going to go over some of the first things to consider when you're starting to plan out your greenhouse project. So the structure itself, do you want it freestanding, building attached? We do custom design. So if you can think of it, we can probably build it. Just let us know. Things like the glazing, are you looking for glass or polycarbonate? Insulated versus like non-insulated single pane glass. Location as well. Do you have a good location for the greenhouse? Do you have enough sun coming in that area? Is it shaded? Is it easily accessible for installation? How you're going to get any electrical or plumbing out to the site, all good things to think about at the start. And then personalization, what kind of foundation you're going to use, decorative options, functional options, how you're planning to use the greenhouse can affect what we recommend. So the more information you can tell us about what you want, the better we can accommodate it to work with what you need. We do have some limited edition models as well. We've been fortunate to work with a few amazing people along the way with different design options. So like our Grapevine Designs chicken coop greenhouse is one of our gable attached greenhouses with a shed attached or chicken coop attached. So you can use it for multi-use structure. The Epic Gardening Greenhouse is a more custom freestanding lean-to, more of a modern style, depending on the look that you want. And then we have our new value model lean-to as well. So attaching to your home or to a secondary wall, and any of these would be customizable as well. So these are 4 of our more standard model options. So our Pacific, our traditional, our cottage, and our Cape Cod, just different design styles. The curved roof for the Pacific option, the straight eave for the rest of the options with different slopes on them. So just to meet, again, the style that you're looking for, the space that you need as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Cassie and Kyle. Now I think we're just going to jump right into our Q&A. If you have any questions and want to talk to our people, like actually speak, if you could use the little hand raise option in Zoom, that would be super helpful. Otherwise, we already have a few questions in the chat. So let's get started. Scott Peace asks, can you share a timeline to do items on the process, understanding there may be a 6-month time frame from ordering to delivery to properly prepare once it arrives?
Cassie.
Yeah. So typically our lead time can vary throughout the year. Right now for most standard projects, it's about six weeks or so in production. For more custom projects or our Meridian line, it can be a little bit longer of a process. Just let us know if you have a time frame in mind for when you would like the greenhouse to arrive. We can typically accommodate that. So we're pretty flexible in our time frames. If you have a contractor that's able to do a foundation for you, we're happy to work with them directly, chat with them directly to help speed up the process on that end as well.
Awesome. Sorry, I lost the chat. And do you have
another
one ready?
Yeah, so Erica asks, quick question about safety glass or safety of glass for tree branches, as she has massive tree overhead. So what happens when limbs fall? How resilient is it?
I can take that one. So our glass greenhouses, it's a tempered safety glass, which would be similar to a side window in your car. So it is safety. It's about 10 times stronger than a typical house window. It's really hard to break, but it's not unbreakable. So if you imagine a car window when it eventually does break, or if something can impact it in a certain way for it to break, it does shatter into like thousands of little pieces. So nothing that a person would be injured by, which is why it's considered safety as well. But it does make a mess, but it is always replaceable. The greenhouses are designed to be serviceable. In your situation, Erica, if you would be open to a consideration of polycarbonate for the roof, we do combination greenhouses where you have glass walls, but we can do polycarbonate in the roof. The polycarbonate is basically completely impact resistant. It has flex to it. I like to say you can shoot hockey pucks off it all day. They'll just bounce right off. And really the only time in my experience of doing this for a long time where a person has had a tree branch affect the polycarbonate is it just landed in a manner, a tree branch fell off a big tree and it actually speared the polycarbonate and broke through the outer layer. So that one piece had to be replaced. Again, it's completely serviceable, but in almost every other situation, it's just going to bounce right off. So it's something that I would always recommend for a roof where you're going under a place where there could be a significant impact, like a big tree or a tree branch.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. She did have a quick follow-up question if we had screens for our windows as well.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Yes, we do have screens for any of our roof vents, side wall vents as well, like intake shutters, louvers. We can add screens onto any of those openings.
Awesome. Dennis asked, how do I prepare a location for a greenhouse if I have a gopher problem?
Oh, I'll jump on this one. Trench down, and so what I recommend, what I've seen people do is as you're doing the foundation, usually if it's a do-yourself, either concrete or wood, you're going to be digging down into the ground, and I usually recommend trenching down maybe a good 18 inches and just putting like a chicken wire mesh down just to lay it in, and then backfill with whatever. It can just be back with the soil again. Usually the bottom 4 to 6 inches beneath the greenhouse itself would be dug out and left as like a clear crushed gravel, and then you could have your wood timbers on top of that. But you'd want that chicken wire or rabbit wire that would keep the burrowing animals out. Like I said, to go down about 18 inches. They're not usually going to go much further than that, and they won't get in. If you kind of put a screen, if that's an issue in your area. The other way is once the greenhouse is installed, normally we're not recommending doing the whole floor in like paving stones, but if it is an issue with gophers or something that's going to burrow, you could just, create a floor space on top of whatever you planned on doing, whether it's gravel or something else, or pea gravel or sand. You could just do paving stones because they might dig out under, but they won't be able to come up through that.
Awesome. Phil, it's kind of a long question, so let me, I'm hoping to have a passive solar greenhouse, which is attached to the south-facing side of my house / living room area, which serves also as a solarium to increase the living space in winter. It will contain a wood stove. The plan is to grow food in it all 4 seasons. Is this something that you could assist with? Secondly, they live in northern Alberta, so how long would it take for problems to be fixed under warranty?
Yeah, I can answer this one. So first of all, yes, this is right up our alley. This is exactly what we are known for. This is what we do. A good place to start would be if you have any photos or dimensions of the area that you want to attach the solarium greenhouse to. We can take a look. We have a design team here that can give recommendations, make sure everything will line up properly in the space that you have available, especially to make sure that nothing will interfere with any doors or windows that you have in the current wall. And then we kind of take it from there. They're all customizable, so if you know an approximate size you're looking for, we can design to meet it. But photos are definitely a good way to start off the process for us. And then for warranty issues, we typically get parts sent out as soon as possible. As soon as we know about a problem, we're always here. So you can contact your salesperson, and we will get replacement parts sent out to you as soon as possible. Typically, typically for smaller parts, they'll go out UPS. So that's like next day or 2 days. Larger parts, they might have to go freight, which might be a couple days longer.
Southern, I was just going to comment, a passive solar greenhouse in Southern Alberta is perfect. You've got so much sun in winter. It'll be a well-used room in your home all year long. So that, I'm sure you're considering that. It does warm up a lot in the day, even if it's bitterly cold outside, it will warm up inside the greenhouse. So I love that for that area. And then also with the wood stove, we can help incorporate, plan that out and talk about how the smokestack will penetrate out the greenhouse and come up with some solutions for that, whether it's a metal panel or just a hole through the glass. We come up with solutions for that with you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Mike asks, are building permits required?
Me?
Sure, yeah.
You love dealing with building permits. It depends on the jurisdiction, depends on really where you are and what the building code requirements are. It usually varies. If you're in a city, like an urban greenhouse, like where we are in BC, it's about 100 square feet. Actually, it's about 108 square feet. It varies across the US and across Canada, where it might be more than, it could be 120 square feet or 200 square feet. And so we just, to the point how big you can go without needing a building permit. So usually we recommend that you have to, we absolutely recommend you check with your local building department to find out what size is required. If it is required, we are able to provide engineered plans. It's for additional cost, but we can get an engineer in your local jurisdiction to review and seal the plans that you would submit to the building department to get the permit. So the problem with building permits is it adds cost and it adds time, but it is navigatable, and we help walk you through that process and help it along. And sometimes people choose just to get a smaller greenhouse to avoid the whole problem. And some people will also just bribe their neighbors with tomatoes and cucumbers to not rat them out if they decide not to get a permit. But we always recommend going the right course, because if you ever want to sell the house with with the greenhouse, someone would want to make sure that it's been done correctly.
Awesome, thanks. I have a question from T. Taylor. Is there a particular kind of contractor I should be looking for any specific questions they should ask?
So yeah, any kind of general contractor should be able to assemble our greenhouses. We do have a pretty detailed installation manual. If you request that from us, we can always send it to you in advance, so you can show that directly to the contractors, see if it's something up their alley. And we are happy to chat with any contractors as well. So you can give our name and number here if they have any specific questions about the installation process. It's always good to chat about that before the greenhouse arrives. But it is designed so that any handy person can assemble majority of our greenhouses, with the exceptions of some of our larger solarium meridian frame type structures.
Carol asks, are the polycarbonate panels sealed in the end so the cells aren't showing and condensation builds up or bugs can enter?
I'll answer this. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the panels get inserted into a metal track, top and bottom. And so first of all, they cannot be sealed. They're not supposed to be sealed. You do not want to try and hermetically seal your own polycarbonate panels, because any ambient humidity in the panels, if you try and do that, will actually result in a mold or a mildew to form, an algae to form. And so you don't want to do that. They do have to be left breathable. But when they get inserted into the metal tracks, once they're into those metal tracks and embedded into the system, then we also provide silicone sealant to seal any gaps and seal along those tracks so that the critters don't get in. It is normal to see condensation. It is not normal to see critters. If there's bugs getting in there, then we have a problem. But that's rare if it's, it doesn't happen if it's everything's done per our instructions. But the condensation seasonally, you can see some. The system is more or less watertight, but it's and usually in the colder seasons, when it's in the mornings, you might see some condensation in the panels. That's okay as long as the critters and the dust and the grit isn't getting in there. On our thicker 5-wall polycarbonate panels, because it's a bit of a different system with the tracks, we actually do provide some tapes to tape the ends. The top of the panel would have a solid tape that would basically seal it off, and then the bottom of the panel actually has a ventilated tape. So again, keeping the critters out, but definitely allowing any moisture to be able to evaporate out. Yeah, it's not a chronic problem, but not unexpected with those types of panels to see some condensation in the mornings seasonally.
Awesome. Tony asks, what kind of foundation would we recommend for an 8x12?
Yeah, so 8x12, you can do wood or concrete would be the most common options, or even brick or block, especially if you wanted to do a raised foundation wall. There's more flexibility in that. For something this size, it would need to be at least 4 inches wide. So 4x4 would be the smallest wood size if you're doing wood, or concrete is going to last the longest. So there's that difference there, but 6x6 would absolutely work for this kind of size.
Awesome. And then Mike asks, what's the general cost difference between glass and polycarbonate?
I should actually get Cassie to answer this one.
Yeah, I can answer this one. So generally speaking, our single pane glass and twin wall polycarbonate is very similar or the same pricing for either of those options. We do have the 5-wall polycarbonate and double pane glass as well. Just for rough ballpark, the 5-wall polycarbonate would be around 1.5 times the cost of either of those options, and the double pane glass would be around double the cost of those options.
Great. Beth asks, for attached greenhouses, is humidity getting into the house a problem at all?
That's me. No, it's not. So in our experience, when you're putting a greenhouse, an attached greenhouse against your home, so it is designed to attach to the exterior surface of your home. So siding that you would have or whatever the outside face is. So surprisingly, the part enclosed, the house that's enclosed by the greenhouse, will weather slower than the part that's exposed to the elements. The reason for that is it's not getting like the drastic temperature changes, and it's also not being wet, dry every time there's a rain or it dries. So it's a more consistent temperature inside the greenhouse. And then in terms of humidity, that would comes down to a different kind of condensation issue. You don't want, so you control the condensation in your greenhouse. You can control it, and so you don't want to have condensation anyway dripping down on your plants. And so you're keeping a relatively condensation-free environment. Like your plants want humidity, but you don't want to have actual water forming that's going to drip on your plants, and that would be what would affect the home. So yeah, the house, a portion that's being attached to, will actually last longer. So the downside to that, I guess, is if you ever decide to move and take that greenhouse with you, you will have a patch of house that looks a bit newer than the rest.
And then a follow-up to that, is fogging of the glass or polycarbonate an issue with the attached greenhouse? So like the heat from the house.
No, it's like, I guess it depends on the greenhouse you have. If you're buying a single pane glass greenhouse, just like old single pane glass windows in older homes, and if you're in a cold climate, you can see condensation forming and even ice forming. Usually people would, probably remember that from, around the bottoms of windows. You can see that. It's not uncommon for a look for it to be, if it's single pane glass, to see a fog on it, a condensation on it that, in the mornings of a cold morning, that's when you would see it. So it's controllable by how much ambient humidity you have in the greenhouse, and what the outside temperatures are. A bit of condensation is pretty normal. If you have a lot, then we definitely help you control that. We actually have a tool that we send out on that, on condensation. But in a nutshell, if you find you're getting it, adding a little bit of heat and some air circulation will help keep a dry greenhouse dry, and then you won't have that issue. So that's one of our tools. I know we talked about pumping some tools or putting some links onto some of these things into our chat for people to grab. And also, I'm sure Hannah or Andrew are probably going to do it, but our foundation guides probably, if it's not already on there, probably will show up as well for everyone to have.
Which is great, because we actually have, our next question is pretty specific on our foundation. So Rodney and Allison asked, our foundation is concrete blocks with a pressure treated lumber sill plate. The greenhouse will sit on the lumber. We're planning to use an Owens Corning foam-like product that is normally used on sill plates to provide insulation and moisture protection and insect prevention. Is that a proper product to use between the pressure treated lumber and the greenhouse?
You want me to take this one, Cassie?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and yes. So we always recommend a barrier between our aluminum and the pressure treated wood. And the reason for that is the wood has copper in it, which can affect the aluminum. Even though our aluminum is painted, we just don't want to have any issues down the road of the non-ferrous metals affecting each other. And so yes, that's a great idea. If you are doing the wood on the on top of the concrete, and maybe we could talk after, but I would probably recommend almost wrapping it over the edges as well. So if you're covering up the whole of the wood, just to prevent any moisture from actually sitting on the wood itself, the wood will last a lot longer if it's somewhat protected from moisture just resting right on it. So versus only being where the greenhouse is actually sitting. So it's probably something you thought about doing anyway, about at least doing the top of it, but sometimes even doing a wrap will help a little bit to keep the moisture from setting into the wood. Pressure treated is going to last 15 years or 20 to 25 years if you keep all the moisture off it. I see a follow-up. Do you need a wood sill? You don't. If you have level, like if it's a level, smooth surface, you can avoid the wood altogether. And that would be my normal recommendation. If someone's going to the effort of doing concrete already, the concrete will last forever. Well, almost forever, and the aluminum will. So if you could actually affix the aluminum straight to the concrete. As Cassie would mention, we ask that question when we're taking the orders because we want to know what hardware to send with the greenhouse, because we change it depending on if it's going to be attached to wood or concrete. And so we can make those changes for you. But where people would choose wood is if it's more of a rougher finish on the top of the concrete, as most pours are. Most of the time, if someone's pouring a foundation for a house, they don't care what that finish is. It's going to be seated with wood anyway. So, and the wood gives you the flexibility to correct for any differences in the dimensions that the greenhouse is supposed to be versus what the concrete is.
Awesome. One from JP. Any advice for placement within a raised bed garden?
Yeah, me, Cassie. Me? A raised, so placement, I'm gonna assume placement of the greenhouse within a raised bed garden. I would keep the greenhouse to the north side of the garden, so that your raised bed will have full access to the sun, versus being centered in a raised bed. And if the greenhouse is going up against an embankment, then you may just have to build a bit of retainage behind it, and have the greenhouse tightly located to it, just to keep it so that the plants, the majority of the garden can be in front of the greenhouse. Hopefully I'm reading the question correctly.
No, I think that's what they were looking for. If not, can you please put a follow-up in the chat for us to make sure we answered your question properly. So Dennis asks, if I want to grow cactus, succulents, and also tropical plants, can I install a partition divider in the greenhouse, or is it better to keep those in 2 separate greenhouses?
Yeah, I can answer this one here. So yes, absolutely. You can do a partition. Depending on the size of the greenhouse, we can do a full partition wall. So you can have 2 different climate zones inside of one greenhouse. 2 separate structures work as well, but that's 2 separate structures to keep heated. and design takes up a bit more space. So you can do that either with a partition wall, or if you're looking for something smaller, even just sectioning off a certain area of the greenhouse with like a polyfilm to have one area a bit more in a different climate zone. So keep one area a little bit more heated, have a bit more airflow, not as much heat needed for the rest of the greenhouse. Absolutely.
Awesome. And kind of keeping on the same theme as that, Mike asks, what natural heating options do you recommend for an all seasons greenhouse in the Vancouver area?
So natural heating in the Vancouver area. So this is the greenhouse. When you say natural, I'm assuming something that's
I should say natural was in parentheses, so I think it's open.
Open. Okay. So typically we're looking at like electrical or gas heating for the greenhouses in any climate. In Vancouver, for all season greenhouse, all season, it would depend of whether you want to grow tropicals in winter for your all season, or tomatoes in January, or if you just want to do what's become a lot more common is changing up your harvest and just keeping it as a cool house over winter. And so I'll just make the assumption that we're talking about a cool house over winter. And if you're in Vancouver, for those people that don't know our area, it's coastal. If you're American, it's very similar to Seattle. So it rains a lot throughout the winter. We don't get very much sun, natural solar heat gain in the winter. So some heat will be necessary to keep it above freezing for the few days that we go below freezing. Usually we look for small, like enthusiast hobby, greenhouse. Usually it's electric heat because it's not coming on very often. You might use it 5 days out of the month for 2 months out of the year. And so although it's costly to run electrical, it's not.
That's how they're doing it.
Sorry? Oh. So that's what we recommend for larger greenhouse.
Oh, Kyle, I think you got muted.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. For larger greenhouses, we usually recommend natural gas or propane if it's available. Either of those options if they're available. From a natural standpoint, we talked earlier about putting wood stoves or even pellet stoves. People put that into their greenhouses as heating options. I love recommending that for people that can be active, but I usually recommend it as a supplemental heat, or maybe it's the primary heat, but then have a backup in case you don't happen to be there for a night. If you have something else that can come on, we don't want to lose the plants. And then for people that really want to be as off grid as they can be, I love recommending a book called The Winter Harvest by Elliot Coleman, and he's located in the Northeast. of the US, one of the New England states, I can't remember, but he talks about growing year round in a single pane glass greenhouse, so which is basically uninsulated, without adding any additional heat, but he's very active in his greenhouse. So basically every night he is turning it down, going in and putting basically an energy blanket covering over his plants to retain all the heat that has been built up throughout the day. That works great in moderate climates that actually get sunshine during the day, but it's a bit more challenging in the Pacific Northwest. But if you're in cold climates but you have sun, it's more achievable. So that's what I would recommend. I don't recommend trying to get solar panels to retain heat into batteries and then convert that into electricity. It would be too much. And there's things you can do in the greenhouse. The greenhouse is the original solar cell. So if you want to minimize your heat, your heat load, either electrical or gas, putting black tubs in your greenhouse, filling that with water, maybe underneath the benches, maybe underneath the north side of the benches where you're not really growing plants anyway. Tubs of water will act as a natural heat sink. And so it'll heat up again during the day, and then it will release that built-in warmth at night. So it may not do it 100%. Actually, it may do it 100% in Vancouver because we're fairly moderate climate, but it will help anywhere. So that would be my tips.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, can we explain the advantages and disadvantages of 16 mil double glass versus low E glass options, and what is the relative cost difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so both of those options are the more insulated glass option, so they'll help retain a bit more heat inside the greenhouse. The clear double glass option, it will give you a bit more visible light transmission inside the greenhouse. The low E coating, it does help maximize the insulating R value of the glass and reduces the relative heat gain. So it does allow for a bit more of a comfortable space, especially if you're using the structure as a living space. It's going to be a bit more comfortable inside the greenhouse in the summer and in the winter time. So summer, it helps. It makes it a little bit cooler in there, a bit more easy to sit inside the greenhouse. And then in the winter time, it will help to, if you have a heater inside, it will help to retain a bit more of that heat compared to the clear glass. The coating, it also reflects infrared back towards the interior, so that's what helps it retain more heat on the inside.
So, and the cost difference, sorry, did you go over that part?
Oh yeah, sorry, cost difference. The low E glass is a bit more expensive, about 1.2 times the cost of the regular double pane glass.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And this is regarding touch-up paint. They do know that we do send some, but how does the touch-up paint blend in with the baked on enamel? And then how many scratches could they expect on the greenhouse specifically when it arrives?
I'll answer this. So we wrap it and try and keep the bundles from, so all the bundles of aluminum are tightly packed. We have a thin foam wrap that goes between the bundles to try and minimize the scratches or the issues with pieces moving or rubbing against each other that would create scratches. So you shouldn't be seeing very many, if any, on that end. But there can, it can be some, which is why we include the touch-up paint. But really, why we include the touch-up paint is with the baked enamel. You can, like, if a screwdriver gets away on you as you're installing, you might get a bit of a scratch. And so this is where the touch-up paint comes in handy. So there's two types of coatings that people would commonly know: the baked enamel or the powder coat. We do the baked enamel because it works out well with how our pieces slide into each other. You can't really do that with the powder, and it's similar to house windows. And so it lasts as long as the powder, but it's not as durable of a coating. So if a screwdriver were to scrape along it, gets away and you could see it could get through that paint coating. And so how it blends with the paint, the beauty of the wet baked enamel is, different than a powder coat. It's not a thick coating, and so it will blend. You just do a spray or a light spray, and then see how it goes, and maybe another light spray, and it will blend right in. Whereas if you had a powder coating, which is much harder, but if it did get chipped, you would always see that pocket, like that bit of paint that is flecked away, where you won't get that with the baked enamel because it's a thinner coating. So it blends easy, blends well, but as with some other things that we talk about, if someone's doing touch-up paint, I always make a recommendation that less is more. So if you're just gonna be spraying right on one spot, then you're gonna be cleaning up a mess. But if you just do a bit of a spray, and then if that didn't do it, they wait a bit and then try again, and then you'll get it. It's not complicated, not hard, and honestly not very common. And that can will probably sit in a garage for years until you eventually throw it away.
Okay, awesome. Alan has kind of a detailed question. So he's located in Santa Fe, and occasionally can get torrential rains with runoffs. He's considering a 12 by 20, and is a bit worried about runoffs and erosion. What would our thoughts be on water diversion or French drains to help with this issue?
Do you want me to take the foundation question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, water diversion for that area, water diversion in the French drain to prevent the erosion. We definitely recommend that in those situations. So the French drain, or moving the water that comes down off the greenhouse to move it away from the greenhouse, usually is important. And if it's a 12 by 20, I'm not sure what your building code requirements are, if you need a permit or not, but they would probably require to have some kind of water plan to move that water away from the greenhouse. It's not a small greenhouse, and you can, when it's torrential, there can be a lot of water coming off of those eaves, and so yeah, that would be our recommendation. We don't like it when building departments nose in and they start requiring people to put sump pumps in for a greenhouse. That's crazy. But having some kind of drainage plan around the greenhouse to move the water is definitely appropriate, especially in places that get like flash flood or flash rains. Yeah, where we are, Pacific Northwest, it rains all the time, but it's not with that intensity, and so just even having gravel around the perimeter that just lets the water kind of absorb instead of splashing mud back up on the glass is all we really worry about, but it does rain all the time.
Great. So Karen asks, are the smaller greenhouses movable if the owner is relocating?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, they are. So if you are moving your greenhouse, basically you'll follow the instruction manual backwards. You can disassemble the same way, move it. You'll just need some new sealants for the reassembly. But yeah, we've seen it before. We've helped for local moves as well. So absolutely doable. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And Scott asks, who and how can I contact about moving forward in the process of planning and ordering a Cape Cod greenhouse?
Yeah, so us. So
we love those questions.
Yeah. So you can contact hello@bcgreenhouses.com, or you can give us a call. We can add our phone number into the chat here as well, or myself directly, Cassie at bcgreenhouses.com. We're all happy to help. Usually if you have a size in mind and the style, which is Cape Cod, great, let us know. We'll start out with a quote for you. We'll include shipping and some of our recommended options. Then we can go through them, find out what works best for for what you're planning, and then we can finalize the order from there.
Great. Liz asks, are our frames track metal or aluminum?
Aluminum. Everything's the whole framework is aluminum, and all the fasteners are stainless steel. And so we don't have any non-stainless, and no steel is used for the infrastructure. Everything is done with aluminum, and it's a light, easy material to handle. And it's rust resistant. Obviously it's aluminum, so it'll never rust. It is what it is. It'll look the same in 10, 15, 20 years as it does kind of when it's new, because it's been painted. And yeah, that's why we choose aluminum. It's easy to handle. The larger greenhouses, we can do all the infrastructure with aluminum, we do, and so they'll get some heavier aluminum channels and structural angles and tubes. But it's our metal of preference. We specifically don't do anything with steel outside of the fasteners.
Great. So the next question is from Pete. Since we mentioned local contractors earlier, he was asking, do we have regional distributors or installation partners?
Yes, we do. We have retailers throughout. If you're looking at cross-country greenhouses, you can find some people possibly in your area. I don't know if we have anyone in New Hampshire. I don't think we do, specifically in New Hampshire. Depending on the greenhouse, we are also happy to give options for sending one of our installers to work alongside a local crew, or local 1, 2, or 3 other people. And it gives you that, takes all the guesswork out of it. So it can make sense for some greenhouses to have one of our people come and join your team. Your team can be, homeowners, their friends, family, to work alongside our people. And then we would give you an idea of how many days you should plan for, what tools you would need, like equipment, like ladders, hand tools, and have some good expectations of what to plan for. And so that's a good option. And so our installers are located across the US and across Canada. So it's not like you're necessarily flying someone out necessarily from British Columbia to New Hampshire. It might be coming from southern state or Wisconsin or somewhere else where we would have people being able to come from to shoot out and work with you. I would say this: when we do send help out, our supervisors to work alongside, this is their livelihood. They're skilled professionals. They've been doing it for many years. They're not inexpensive, and no one has ever regretted having one of them come. So it's one of those things. It depends on the scale of the project. If it's just a small little 8x12 single pane glass greenhouse, you don't really need one of our people to come out. But if it's something larger and you have a crew that that you feel would be able to stand with a little bit of help, it just makes the process go so smooth, and it's done right. And yeah, it can be more reasonable than us sending out a full crew to do the whole installation from start to finish.
Yeah, and to follow up on the second part of your question, if you have a BC greenhouse and have worked with a contractor that you really liked, we'd love to hear about them and add them to our installers list. So you can email Angela at bcgreenhouses.com to get them on that installers list. So Andy asks, they already own a BC greenhouse and say that they're having electrical issues with their vents and louvers, and there's wondering if there's any tips on how to get those working again.
Yeah, usually that's a conversation to try and figure out what would be the issues with one of our tech support team or myself to find out what's happening. Because if it's after 2 years, that's not normal. And so I would like to ask some questions about if I'm sure there's not a moisture thing. They're all meant for greenhouse environments. Or an electrical thing, but usually we try and find out what the issue is. These things are, typically bulletproof, and when I say that is if they are going to not work. It's usually right out the box. Hey, we get something, this thing's not working, then we have to send out a new motor right away. But if you do get something that's working, you should be able to get, 10, 20 years out of it. So if something's going after 2 years, it seems to be an issue. Did it say vents, louvers was not open, and when the fan, so it is the shutters, just the shutters that aren't going. Yeah. Call our tech support team, or possibly after this call, maybe I can have a quick chat with you and we can try and figure out what's happening. If there's parts or pieces that are common, then like we have all the parts and pieces here, though. That's a pretty easy thing for us to figure out what would have to send out.
Awesome. John asks, can you provide a mechanical energy curtain, or do you have mechanical roof and side vent options?
Yeah, I can answer this one here. So we don't have a specific energy curtain that we provide, but we definitely have roof and side venting options. So we have a couple different options for it. We do have our standard roof vents and side vents. They have a wax cylinder on the inside of the opener. So when it warms up, the wax expands and pushes the vents open automatically. Those would not be the mechanical option. They're passive, so they wouldn't require any electricity. But we do have a motorized option as well. So a bit more mechanically operated, thermostat controlled. We have a lot of different options for that, for continuous roof vents, continuous side vents, or the smaller standard size with mechanical openings. They can all be operated together. You can even get a control system to operate those, along with any heating and exhaust fans, all in one package as well. If you have a size and style and temperature that you want to maintain inside the greenhouse, just let us know and we can put together some recommended a recommended package for you as well.
I'll add on our institutional sized greenhouses, larger ones that we would do for municipalities or post-secondary schools. We actually do and can provide mechanical energy curtains for them. So it's similar to a shade. It is the shade cloth, but it has a reflectance, so it's not just reflecting the sun out when it's shading, but it will also close at nighttime to retain the warmth in the greenhouse that's been set. And so for larger institutional ones, we can and do provide mechanical. We just don't have an economical system to really apply to a hobby or enthusiast greenhouse. Usually it's just easier, more practical from a shading standpoint, or to have something that's applied manually.
Okay, yeah. Rodney and Allison ask, how far ahead of the delivery do you get a firm delivery date? And when do they receive specific information on how heavy the crates are? And yeah.
Yeah, so we do have a shipping coordinator here. Her name is Brett, so you'll be in touch with her at several points throughout the process. And so typically we'll book a more firm date fairly close to the delivery time frame. We'll set a general week when we confirm an order with you. We just want to make sure that all the parts are in, everything's ready to go. We do need the final balance paid prior to delivery, and then we can set the exact shipping date for you. We can send over a sample packing list with weights and dimensions for all of the crates in advance, once we know the model of your greenhouse. And then once we have everything all packaged up here on our end, we'll send over the exact packing list with the dimensions, weights of all of the crates, and a detailed list of what's in each of those crates as well. So you'll get that before quite a bit of before the greenhouse arrives.
Awesome. Michelle asks, Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, did someone talk?
Oh.
No? Okay. Michelle asked, what if you want to add another level to your greenhouse structure?
Is this me, Cassie, or is this you?
You can take this one, sure.
Add another level to the greenhouse structure. So I guess I'm not sure about like if we were building a greenhouse that's 2 stories tall. We've actually done that. Really tall greenhouses. We did that would have a separate layer. It's actually one I know about was a home attached greenhouse that was basically encompassing a person's upper deck. But we can build any size that people want. I guess in terms of the sidewall height, it's not uncommon for us to do really, really tall greenhouses. Usually that's when people want to do more vertical gardens in their greenhouse as well. So have some vertical gardening going on against the walls. So I guess I'm just reading into the question if that's what was intended, is like there's an extra story inside. So it's possible to build a greenhouse that way. If you have an existing greenhouse, I'm not sure. I guess if the question was you want to add another level 2 greenhouse structure, I'm assuming that's building it as a 2-story structure. I don't know if we have any pictures offhand that would show anything we have really, really tall ones, but probably nothing on the inside that's showing another level inside. But if there was going to be a floor put in, that would be typically by others. So that's going to be something else that someone's going to provide if there's something to be worked around our infrastructure.
Awesome. Okay, and DB asks, which style roof is best for preventing snow accumulation and collapse?
Yeah, so that typically would be our Cape Cod style. That is the steepest standard pitch that we have. So it's a 12/12 slope. So a lot of the snow will just shed right off the roof. With that being said, we are able to upgrade our snow load requirements for any of our structures as well. So if you have any specific codes that you need to meet for snow loads, let us know and we can upgrade the greenhouse as well. They are all quite structurally sound, but we ship all across Canada and the States, so we do ship into snowier areas, and we can update to match any code requirements.
Awesome. And then we have one from, I believe her name is Kieran. I'm in the Southeast United States, Virginia Beach specifically, and will need to design an attached greenhouse due to the local permit restrictions. I'm hoping to use it for 4-season room and food growing area. Our temperatures range from low 20s Fahrenheit in the winter to highs of 90s in the summer with consistent high humidity. Would you recommend installing a mini split HVAC system to regulate the greenhouse temperature and humidity throughout the year, or are fans enough?
I'm liking more and more the heat pumps or the mini split HVAC systems for greenhouses to supplement, especially in climates like that. It'll help keep the greenhouse cooler and more comfortable for the plants and for people that are going to be in it often. Normally we don't want to recommend any air conditioning type of system in a greenhouse because it really sucks the moisture out of the air, and the whole idea is that it will be a humid greenhouse. But in high humidity areas, it's okay to have some active cooling like that, just from a comfort standpoint for the people that are going to be in it, and it won't really affect the plants because they will get their humidity they need. And you can monitor the humidity with the humidistat in the greenhouse to make sure it's not drying out too much. And then for the heating, yeah, it's absolutely a great way to go for that. And we would want to work with you to find out what your BTU equivalent requirements are for the greenhouse, depending on the size. Knowing that you're getting down to the 20s, low 20s in winter, we could size out to make sure that the heat pump or mini split HVAC system that you're doing would have the heating capacity for the greenhouse. And probably it would. And if it doesn't, then we would work with what you would need to supplement it.
Awesome. And then do we recommend a greenhouse for first-time vegetable gardeners, or is that something people should buy after a few years of experience?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That's a loaded question for
Yeah.
a company. What do you want us to say?
Well, yes is the short answer, but with vegetable growing, there's a lot more flexibility when you are growing in a greenhouse compared to outside. So you have a lot more control of the environment. So you can extend your season quite a bit longer. You can do a bit more experimenting. Depending on your location as well, you can grow vegetables that you might not be able to grow in your area. So there's a lot more flexibility in the options of what you're able to grow. So it's great. It will still be an experiment though. So if you're a first time grower, there will be some trial and error as to what you can grow, what kind of heating you'll need, all that kind of stuff. But it definitely makes it easier to have that controlled environment for you.
I think we're the only gardeners that actually like blight on our for tomatoes, because if you're first time growing vegetables and you have your tomatoes getting to that perfect size, you're ready to pick, and then the rains come and then you get blight and you're like, oh, it's just September. So the greenhouse, so usually people don't come to us when they're brand new. They come to us after that first year of blight, and then realize I could have my tomatoes up until end of up into Halloween and not have the problem. So yeah, blight's our greenhouse friend.
Awesome. I do see one question that we can answer. Yes, this session is being recorded and we will send out in an email probably next week of the recording as well. So all of this information can be reviewed later. I know it's kind of a lot. There's a lot of technical pieces. So yeah, I'm going to ask Larry's question. He's contemplating an 8x12 Cape Cod. And finds the product to be significantly more expensive than those available from other sources. But he wants to verify why that is, and if there's anyone in Victoria that would be able to inspect where he was looking to place it.
You got it?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can answer this one here for sure. So all of our greenhouses, we pride ourselves on the product that we build. So our warranty, our strength, our custom designs as well. So we can take your vision and make it a reality, essentially. So everything we do is made just for you. We do have good customer service here as well. So anything you need in the process, we are more than happy to help. We have our lifetime warranty. So this is meant to be your forever greenhouse. It will last your lifetime. It will last a lifetime. And with customizations like custom door placements, we can do it. Anything that you can vision, we can do. So we can adjust things as you need for your space.
Yep. Can I add?
Yeah, go ahead.
If there's someone near Victoria, so two things. Yeah, we have a representative in Victoria area that we can definitely put you in touch with. His name is Aaron, and he can definitely show you some greenhouses around the area that would be similar to what you're looking for. And I think I saw his face just pop up. He just canceled his camera. But do you see that too, Ange? Oh, there he is. There's Aaron and Victoria. we got him back. Yeah, that's to Cassie's point. Our greenhouses are designed by we're 70 years, but they've been tweaked throughout the years. Were designed by journeyman glaziers So things that set us apart are the strength that Cassie mentioned, the weather tightness, the seals that we do, the active weep system. We're moving moisture out of the system when it gets in. And so we're caring about some of the details that most people or a lot of competitors may not be thinking too much about. We want greenhouses to look beautiful and be very functional and last for generations.
Awesome. I do have another question. This one's regarding delivery. Is it possible to defer delivery? Say if they wanted to take advantage of our sale currently, but defer delivery until spring 2024.
No.
So with our current sale pricing, I believe we can ship out until end of March of next year.
March 31st.
But yeah, the 21st of March. But for general greenhouse orders, we can absolutely ship out anytime you want. So just let us know. We do have flexibility in our schedules, so we can book dates in advance. Just with our current sale pricing, we do have a deadline, but we're always open to discussion on timeline for deliveries in the future. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Terry asked, do we sell polyurethane panels for small hobby unseated greenhouses?
Cassie?
Yeah, sorry. So we don't typically sell panels alone without our framing. We are custom builders, so we typically design our polycarbonate panels and framing to work together. We only have certain sizes that work within our frame system, so we can't guarantee a seal or connection for other kinds of structures, but we can with ours. So we would typically do the whole unit altogether.
Yeah. Next one that we have is from Rodney again. Do we typically run conduit along the greenhouse frame for their electrical routes, or do people in general like to a light switch beside the door, outlets, lights, etc.?
So yeah, exactly. Usually conduit is run along the base or just inside the greenhouse along the base. And then when it turns up for a light switch or thermostat or equipment, the conduit can be just bolted straight to the frame of the greenhouse. We have an interior bolt track. That's how the whole greenhouse is assembled, is with this interior bolt track. But once it's assembled, that bolt track can have additional hardware bolted into it. We provide some extra hardware for that, and you can just take a typical conduit clip that an electrician would be using for roughing in electrical inside a home, and instead of just nailing it into wood, you'd be just bolting it into our frame so that everything stays tight to the frame and doesn't look loose and sloppy.
Awesome. And then we have one from Beth. How dirty does the polycarbonate or glass get, and how frequently does it need to be cleaned? And how is it easier to, which is easier to maintain, glass or polycarbonate?
You want me to jump this one?
Sure.
I recommend a good deep clean of your greenhouse once a year, and that's for plant health. And so usually I recommend it at fall, like the end of fall, when you take out your final summer harvest, before you do put in your winter plants or your wintering over plants. That's usually the time that we recommend, because that's the one kind of singular, crossover period that people would have in their greenhouse. And you do want to do it once, and that's, again, like I said, for plant health, but it's also to keep it clean. You would find on any greenhouse, if you're in a rainy area, the north side is going to have, just like the north side of your house would have more of that algae or green buildup. And so that's what you're trying to wash away on the outside for looks, and then also on the inside just for the plants. The glass is typically easier for cleaning because you can use whatever solvents you want on it, including bleach if you want to, or vinegar, or anything harsh that's going to give it a good clean and a good finish. The polycarbonate, you can use a mild dish soap and more elbow grease to clean it. But it's they're both doable. You can use pressure washers on both. And so, but I'd say, glass would be a bit easier. I wouldn't base my decision based on, necessarily what's easier for cleaning. The glass you will be cleaning, it's easier. You'll be cleaning it more frequently because it's glass and it's going to look like a jewel or a gem in your yard. So you would want to be keeping it more clean, where the polycarbonate wouldn't be showing, the dirt or dust or grit as readily.
Awesome. I have another one from Alan. He's considering the 12 by 20 Cape Cod. He was wondering, what is our recommendation on the number of entryways for that one?
Yeah, so all of our greenhouses come with one standard single door. That's the standard in any of the first quotes that you receive or in our pricing online. We do have a lot of different options for door placement as well. So it may depend on where you have the greenhouse located in your yard. You can always do multiple doors. So if you wanted to do kind of a walkway through the greenhouse, you can do a door on the opposite wall. Or if you wanted a side entry door or double doors, if you have larger things to bring in and out of the greenhouse. It does depend quite a bit on how you plan to have the inside laid out as well. The more doors that you have, you can't hang anything on those walls. There will have to be a break in your shelving or your benches along there as well. So interior layout's going to affect how many openings you would want in there as well for entryways.
Awesome. And just like in the chat, I just wanted to mention that we'll be wrapping up things shortly. So if you have any additional questions that you want, please put them in the chat so we get to answering them. I have a couple more here though. This one's kind of funny. Are you sure you really want to ship the order to Northern Alberta in March?
Okay for us, but no, we can discuss it, and if you're trying to capture the sale, have a conversation with Cassie. You can twist her rubber arm. She's a pushover.
That's not wrong. That is true. Yeah.
She'll buy you a couple of weeks to hold it if it's not if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, we are we're pretty flexible in that sense of things. So if there's a certain time you can't accept it, just let us know and we'll try our very best to work with what you need.
Awesome. How susceptible is a glass roof versus polycarbonate to hail?
The polycarbonate is guaranteed for 10 years that the outside layer will not break due to any size of hail. We don't get any kind of warranty claims on the polycarbonate. It doesn't mean that it can't be indented. So if you're getting, baseball sized hail or golf ball sized hail, it could leave little, pockets or little indents into it. It would not affect the performance of it. So like I said, you could, shoot hockey pucks off the polycarbonate all day. It will not break. And the glass, it's tempered safety glass. So we used to, prior to 2001, we were shipping greenhouses with just regular annealed glass, just regular glass. And those ones did and would have issues with large hail. But since we switched over to polycarbonate, it's not a thing for us. It's and maybe we've just been lucky. But it's just really strong. It's like if you threw a rock at a window on a car, thinking you're going to smash it, you usually won't the first time. It takes more of an impact than you really think it will. But yeah, polycarbonate is definitely a guarantee that nothing's going to break through.
Okay, and then I think this may be our last question, unless something else comes in. We do still have a few more minutes. Lillian asks, we have the ability to place the greenhouse practically on the side, any side of the house, for an attached greenhouse. Is there an optimal exposure we should consider?
Yeah, so for placement, typically you'll want as much light as possible in the greenhouse. So like southern or western potentially exposures are a great start. Depending on the location, if you have any trees nearby or anything that might interfere with the sunlight, that's another good thing to look at as well. But generally speaking, southern exposure, you're going to get the most light, so you're going to get the longest season out of that location.
And then one last question to follow up on the hail. If glass panels are damaged by hail, how easy is it to replace a panel?
So the whole greenhouse is definitely serviceable if glass is to break. So that's we've put thought into that, and when we're talking about site selection with customers, we're often talking about serviceability. So yeah, it's definitely not insurmountable to do. If it's an insulated glass greenhouse, like a double pane glass, it's definitely more involved if you break that outer layer, because it's going to be moving a heavy big piece of glass. Usually then you're going to need a few people or a couple people, or if it's a big greenhouse, possibly like a glass company to come in and do it for you. But nothing is rocket science, and you're not disassembling the whole greenhouse to do that. You're just replacing the pieces that are broken if they do break. Single pane glass is typically a homeowner thing to do if it were to happen. But yeah, it's nothing that you would be thinking about definitely too often because it's tempered. It used to be more of an issue where a lawnmower would take out a side piece if it was the regular annealed glass. But we've all the switch to tempered 20 plus years ago was a good change for us.
Awesome. And then quickly here, actually it doesn't necessarily have to be quickly. If you have the time, can you discuss the pros and cons of the various pitches we offer?
Yeah, for sure. So we have kind of 3 standard pitch options. We have a 5/12 pitch, an 8.5/12 pitch, and a 12/12 pitch. So 12/12 is the Cape Cod design. Great for shedding snow off the roof, great for adding extra height to the overall structure. So if you have taller plants that you want inside, or hanging baskets with enough room to walk around comfortably underneath, that's a great way to go. Also, it does give a more Victorian look to the structure as well. So it is partially design preference in that way as well. And then we have our cottage series, which is kind of the in-between, and then traditional, which is a bit shallower of a pitch. Traditional is great if you're not planning to use the extra headspace and you're keeping the area heated. It's just a little bit less space to keep heated overall. And again, to match the look of any buildings nearby, there might be certain styles that suit the area a little bit better.
Awesome. And I think that kind of wraps up our session today. If you do need to get a hold of us, our contact information should be on the screen. Probably the best way to get a hold of sales is going to be that hello@BC Greenhouses email, and it will get filtered directly through to our sales team, or our telephone number is up there as well. And we're here 9 to 5 Pacific time, Monday through Friday. And we have select appointments available on Saturday if you prefer to come in on a Saturday to our showroom here in Surrey, BC. We hope you got a lot out of this, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.